Alright, so the first thing we're going to do for today's lesson is warm up with numbers 1 and 2 from page 367. So these are two of your homework problems. Let's see what we remember from Friday. So remember, our first thing that we need to do when we're graphing absolute value problems is figure out what makes the absolute value 0. So what number can I plug in for x that makes it 0? So I'm basically setting it equal to 0. So for problems like this, where it's just x in the absolute value bars, the only number that makes it 0 is 0. So you're going to put in a 0 for x. If you put in a 0 for x, absolute value of 0 is 0. 0 plus 3 is 3. So I'm going to graph 0, 3. So we should have a dot right there. Then I need to pick a number higher than 0 and a number lower than 0. So I'm going to go with -1 and 1. So absolute value of -1 is 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. So I should have a dot at -1, 4. If I put in 1 for x, absolute value of 1 is 1. 1 plus 3 is 4 again. So I'm going to have a dot at +1, 4. So my graph will look something like that. So there's my V for my graph. On the next one, on number 2, kind of looks like the same problem, except now it says x plus 3, and both of them are in the absolute value bars. Okay? So you'll see this one for number 1, just the x was in the absolute value bars. On number 2, both of them are in the absolute value bars. So same thing. I need to figure out what plus 3, now that both of them are in the absolute value bars, what plus 3 gives me 0. And again, there's only one answer here. X would have to be -3. -3 plus 3 gives me 0. So if I plug in -3, -3 plus 3 gives me 0. So I'm graphing -3, 0. And then same thing, I need to pick a number lower than -3 and a number higher than -3. So I'm going to go with -4. -4 plus 3 is -1. Absolute value of -1, +1. So -4, +1. Number higher than -3 is something like -2. So -2 plus 3 is 1. Absolute value of 1 is 1. So that's going to be my 3 dots for a problem like this. Remember, you need to find what number makes it 0. So you're just looking at the absolute value. If there is something else on the outside of the absolute value, like this 3 right here, we're not going to worry about that to start. We are just looking at the absolute value. X is the only thing inside the absolute value. So what number does x have to be in order for the absolute value bars to equal 0? 0. Same thing here. We're only looking at the absolute value bars, which happens to be the whole problem for this one. So what does x need to be for this to equal 0? -3. That has to be the first number you pick. So -3. Once you pick that number, you pick a number lower than that number, you pick a number higher than that number, and you graph those 3 numbers. If you don't find that, then you're just going to be guessing which numbers to pick. So you need to be able to find that first number that makes the absolute value bars 0.